Are we ready?
I don't like McManus.
I don't either.
You guys ready?
He came from Minneapolis.
I thought he came from Detroit, or that was the fire chief.
All right, everyone, let's get started. It is now 7 o'clock. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor, the City Council of the City of Cotulla, Texas will hold a regular meeting at 7 p.m. on Thursday, June 25th, 2020. Council will have, at the Alexander Convention Center, 295 North IH 35, Access Road, Cotulla, Texas, 78014. Council will have the option to attend in person or by conference call. The citizens of Cotulla will also be able to listen to the meeting by video conference. Public comments will only be accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting by sending them to the City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at biancam.citysecretary@gmail.com. Item number 1, roll call. I believe we have Mr. Luis Ayala and Mr. Gonzalez. Are they excusable?
Mr. Ayala called me about 4:20 this afternoon, and all he told me was he had not gone over the agenda, so he didn't have time to review it, so he was not gonna be able to make the meeting today. And he was heading back to the ranch.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Mr. Gonzalez called me and said that he had an out-of-town trip. I believe he called me Tuesday or Wednesday and gave me that information.
Council, do you feel that Mr. Ayala should be excused from this meeting?
Did he have ample time to get that agenda?
I believe we delivered the agenda this morning.
I believe it was like at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock?
Put it at his house.
So there was ample time for him that had discussed it, read it, and have it. I make a motion, I would not excuse him.
I have a motion to not excuse Mr. Luis Ayala. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Juan Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. What about Mr. Gonzalez?
If he had talked to Mr. Soalina that he was going to be out of town, I think we should at least.
You want to excuse Mr. Gonzalez? I have a first motion to excuse Mr.
Second.
Gonzalez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ayala. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 3. Will everybody please join me on the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizens to be heard. In order to limit the amount of people in the attendance per governor's order, public comments will only be accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting by sending them to the City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at biancam.citysecretary@gmail.com. City Council cannot discuss any present issue, nor may any action be taken at any given issue at this time. Do we have any citizens to be heard? I believe we don't have any citizens to be heard. Moving on to item number 5.
Excuse me, Mayor, can I, before we start the meeting, can I say something to a former city employee that passed away today on June 25th, 2020?
Yes, you may, sir.
I want to give our condolences to the Martinez family and acknowledge Mr. Noe Martinez for the loss of our fellow city of Cotulla employee. Noe was something else. He was a great, humble, hard-working man, always smiling and cracking jokes, making everybody laugh. He will be truly missed, but will always be in our hearts. Like the words of Joe Green states, please don't cry, just because we had depart, as long as you remember me, I'll live in your heart. Always will, knowing, keep smiling, the City of Cotulla staff.
Mr. None Martinez was a very good character. He always was in high spirit. He fought his illness to the end, and he will greatly be missed by our city staff and everyone who's family and friends. Anything else? Anybody else want to say something?
My deepest condolences to the Martinez family, and our prayers are with the family at this time. Thank you.
Amen. If there's no more comments, moving on to item number 5, departmental and committee reports.
We have provided written reports for all of the departments, but of particular interest, the water report indicates that our new well water project is 100% complete. We are in the approval stage. We have run the bacteriological reports that were necessary to approve it. We have submitted those for approval. We're currently waiting to do a punch list, and we will have a run-through of the system this coming week, and we hope to have that up and running and connected to our system within the next 2 weeks. We also have several water projects that are moving forward. We are waiting for a notice to proceed on the water line that goes to the airport. We are also finalizing the design of the new water tank. We are constructing, or will construct, a 250,000 gallon water tank. This will be constructed at an elevated site in the city, which is over close to the street department, and we expect to be out on bids within the next 2 weeks. We also have started on a street paving project design, where, as council has instructed us in the past, we will be reconstructing or repaving Pool Street, and we are looking at doing Lane Street, and in particular addressing the drainage issues that occur there where Lane Street meets Huddleston. We also have a CDBG grant that will address the drainage issue in the Ortiz Golf intersection, and we will improve that, and we will be out on bids in that particular project probably within the next 30 days. So all of those projects are moving forward, and we hope to get them up and running this summer.
On that, Mr. Dovalino, on Pool Street and Lane Street, is that going to have curbs installed, or just
Pool Street already has curbs on it. Lane Street has some curb and gutter. The biggest problem on Lane is actually the drainage structure. There is an old drainage structure that is there, and we are looking at a pipe bursting technique, which is you have a current, I want to say it's a PVC or some sort of pipe that runs underneath the neighborhoods, and it goes and opens up close to the railroad tracks, like at a diagonal southwest direction. That pipe is incapable of carrying the water that meets at that intersection. We are looking at either going in underground with a machine and doing something called pipe bursting, where you break up the pipe, and it's got a machine with a router on it, and it lays another pipe much larger, or going back up Huddleston toward the area where the water detention pond was
Retention
built
pond.
by the county and running a pipe underground to get to that location. So we're gonna bring both alternatives back to you, and council will then decide which is the best route to take. But we do have some issues in that area with drainage, and obviously there were things that should have been addressed many years ago, but they never were.
Any other questions on departmental reports on the drainage?
And you're gonna get a estimate of how much is the price
Yes.
on the different locations?
When the design is finished by Mr. Martinez, the city has a contract with SMB Engineers. We will bring you the design for approval, and it'll have whatever those options are, and it'll also have an estimate of what the construction cost would be for each one of the items in it.
Okay.
Any more departmental reports? If you, councilmen, have had a chance to review it, then we're going to move on to item number 6. Approval of minutes, May 28th, 2020, and June 4th, 2020.
If there are no changes or corrections that need to be added on there,
Only if you see something that shouldn't be there.
Ms. Georgia, do you know if we did any changes on the minutes?
No, there's no changes.
No changes.
I'll make a motion
Excellent.
to approve.
I have a first motion to approve item number 6 by Mr. Garcia. Juan Garcia. I need a second. Second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, presentation of financial statements by Jorge Flores. Mr. Flores?
Thank you, Mayor, council members, good evening. First report is the sales tax report. For the month of June, the city received $122,124, which is 12% or $16,567 less than last year. Next report is the hotel motel. For the third quarter, the city collected $206,069. So for the year, for the first 9 months of the year, the city has collected $727,655, which is 8% less than last year. Next page, statement of revenues and expenditures for the month of May. Page number 1, total general fund revenues, $1,579,650. Page number 4 is total expenses of $1,597,973 for a net loss of $18,322. Page number 5, the water and sewer fund. Total revenues, $1,089,972. Next page, total expenses of $829,344 for net income of $260,627. On page number 7, the gas fund. Total revenues, $209,295. Total expenses of $183,034 for net income of $16,260. And on the next page is the solid waste fund with total revenues of $539,051. Total expenses of $660,243 for a net loss of $121,192. Any questions?
That 121 was for the gas?
Solid
Yeah,
waste.
Solid waste, correction.
The solid waste has had some,
We had some.
vehicle repairs.
Vehicle
Vehicle
repairs.
repairs.
That's on the roll-off vehicle,
Yes.
right? Okay.
We did receive the, initial reimbursement of the water well, from, the Texas Water Development Board. We initially got, $600,000, which was a loan forgiveness, that was sent in wire transfer to the city. And, last, Friday, we got a first, capital outlay, which was $1.3 million. And so we've received reimbursement from the state for about $1.6 million. We are still waiting for the pending invoices that are there, and you'll address some of them in this agenda as we move forward.
On that roll-off truck, Mr. Dovalina, I remember saying that it had some kind of warranty still, or partial warranty?
Apparently the claim was disallowed because it turned out that it was a maintenance issue, and so they rejected our claim.
Oh, okay. But that truck was already running and everything, right?
Yes, it's got a short block in it that'll give us additional life for that piece of equipment so that we can hold off in replacing it for another couple of years.
When you say maintenance issues, was it abuse or just wear and tear, or?
No, a lot of these trucks have issues with this device that's in it that you've got to burn off, and we typically have problems with those trucks when they do stop and go, and we use that in some instances within the city for that, and you have to burn the truck for a certain period of time in order to clear whatever that device is, so that it doesn't stall, and I think something with that created that problem.
Do you believe that determination is accurate, or is that something you want to contest?
No, I don't want to really get into a tussle with our insurance, because we were claiming it against our insurance.
Any questions on the financial statements?
No.
If not, Mr. Flores, thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to item number 8, discussion and possible action to approve a contractor's application for payment number 4 submitted by Briscoe Architecture Conservation in the amount of $61,154 for the Stockman's Bank project.
This is a request from the individuals that are doing the restoration of the Stockman's Bank building. They have now finished the initial work that was going to be done within the project. With this payment, we will have paid them all of the money that they're currently entitled to, which is $343,525. They have boarded up the building and made it weather tight. It's got a new roof. It's got flooring. It's been completely re-cleaned. They did something called stitching that stabilizes the brick walls with some steel cylinders that are inserted in the walls, and then they're grouted back in to make sure that the building doesn't collapse. The areas that had chimneys before have been filled with concrete, and so you basically have some new pillars on that wall. And then if you notice when you go by, you'll see that they stuccoed the building, and at the very top of the parapet wall, they put in a new cross beam that they have now made sure gets cemented. They will come back in September what they're going to do and what they're presently moving forward to do is they will start doing all of the windows, the sashes. They were able to recover a couple of windows that were still intact. And so they will do all of that work. They will do all the work on the windows, and then including the windows on the bottom and the doors on the bottom. And they will come in and do the finished touches of the work that was designed for them to do. That will occur in September, and we're projecting that that will be finished by October 31st. And we recommend that you approve the draw so that Ms. Martinez can go ahead and send a wire transfer to them to make payment for the work completed.
Councilman, any other questions on item number 8? If not, I seek a first motion to approve item number 8.
Make motion.
First motion by Mr. Gilbert Ayala. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Juan Garcia. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 9, discussion and possible action to approve contractor's application for payment number 8 submitted by J&K Utility Services LLC in the amount of $7,633.44 for city chemical feed and water main project.
As I said before, this project is 100% complete. The remaining balances on this contractor's work, besides the $7,000, is a $14,000 payment for retainage, which will not be paid until the punch list is done and all of the work remaining in that punch list is done. We recommend that you accept the payment for the $7,633.44.
And the 14,000, what was that for?
That's retained.
Retaining fee?
Yes, we won't pay it until the very end, once we accept the project and we've got it online.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment.
I'll second it.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion on item number 9, first motion was made by Mr. Juan Garcia, second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 10, discussion and possible action to approve contractor's application for payment number 11 submitted by McKinley Drilling Company in the amount of $50,701.88 for water well number 9.
This is the other contractor that actually did the drilling on water well 9. Again, we're almost at the end of the draws that they're entitled to. This application is for $50,701.88. As I said before, we are going to have the final test runs for the plant next week, and we expect for them to be approved by the engineer. But we would ask that you go ahead and agree with the payment of the $50,701.88.
And we still got the 27,067 on the retaining, right?
Yes,
Retainage, yes.
correct.
I'll make a motion to pay them.
Councilman, if there's no further discussion on item number 10, first motion was made by Mr. Gilbert Ayala. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Juan Garcia. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 11, discussion and possible action to amend the current Memorial Declaration of Local State of Disaster due to public health emergency.
This item is on the agenda. As we all are aware, we believe that the reopening of the state was done prematurely. and we are now beginning to see the backlash of all of that throw caution to the wind approach, and the state of Texas, even the small county of LaSalle, is starting to see more COVID cases than it had ever seen before, even at the peak of the COVID in April. Once the Memorial Day weekend occurred and people began to ignore CDC guidelines and the other recommendations that were done by doctors and hospitals and mayors and county judges were ignored, we now see the results of what that was. There is, under state law and under the governor's order, according to the governor, the ability by cities and counties to mandate that all businesses require individuals that enter the businesses to have a face covering, and that if the face covering is not worn, that they be disallowed entry into the buildings, either public buildings or commercial buildings. We also included in this item the continued closure of the Alexander Convention Center until July 31st, and to continue to see the trend of the COVID-19 cases that are currently out in the community. I believe that we now have 7 or 8 cases here locally. Back in April, we had, I think, 1 or 2.
Are those, I'm sorry, sir, are those counting the ones that we already had, or it's number 8 from the time that it started till now?
Yeah, it's from the time that it started to now.
Excellent.
But I think you've seen more cases during this month than you did in the prior 3 other months.
I agree.
And so there is more testing. I did see a line of individuals at the South Texas Rural Health Center yesterday. Obviously, people were concerned and were afraid that they may have symptoms related to that. So I know that they did testing, and that testing usually takes 2 to 3 days before you even find out whether you're positive or negative, hoping that those people will continue to be negative. We want to immediately do the mandate of creating a face covering for all individuals. I believe the age bracket is from 6 and up. It doesn't require children 6 and under. It follows pretty much the pattern of the other cities that have done similar declarations, including the ones to the north in San Antonio and Bexar County. I don't know if there's anything that the council wants to add or ask questions related to that.
This declaration, is it similar to the declaration that the county has on order right now?
I don't know that the county has actually updated their declaration, but it is similar to the other counties like Bexar and San Antonio, and it stays within the boundaries of what the governor is willing to allow.
And this facial mask is gonna be worn in the public areas only?
It'll be worn in grocery stores, in pharmacies, in
Convenience stores?
restaurants, convenience stores, all of those places. The city is not interested in fines or anything like that. it's interested in compliance and in trying to restrain the growth of the disease that is going throughout our community. Every day you hear a rumor about somebody else that now has the disease. There's a lot of speculation in the community, and there's a lot of fear. And so we're trying to do what is good for the community to make sure that we're able to, as the governor said, corral the disease.
This
And
declaration, Mr. Dovalina, how long we gonna have it?
it's through July 31st.
31st, okay.
Or
Until further
or if we see a need to amend it, we
extend
will.
it.
We will amend it and probably either extend it or, I guess, do away with the mask.
Amending
The
No,
declaration.
the declaration.
If we follow the history, I think we have something in place until the end of this month. This simply kicks it out another month.
Correct.
Even if things get better, which I expect that they will, I think you're probably going to see more of these declarations go on, restricting to some extent some of the things that we used to be able to do, at least until the end of the year. I don't know what Mr. Dovalina thinks, but I don't see a full-scale shutdown again in the cards. But I think wearing masks is going to be something that's going to be with us for at least the remainder of this year. I hadn't been to Cotulla in a couple of weeks, and I was surprised when I stopped at the local Exxon that everybody's wearing a mask, you know, and we don't have an order requiring that right now.
Correct.
So Mr. Dovalina and I spoke, I think it was yesterday, and basically went through the provisions of this. The 6 and under, that was me. I don't know what age. That sounds right. I mean, the governor's orders are kind of vague. I think that given the one of the prior orders, I don't think even if the city wanted to do it, that you can really enforce it by locking somebody up. But you can require local businesses to demand that they wear. Now,
Wear face mask.
as I understood my instructions, you have to wear it going in, but once you're in, if you can establish the social distancing requirements, you can take them off.
That is correct.
And this also applies to any commercial or public building. You know, if the school and the county ignore us, you know, which I don't know whether they will or they won't. The county does have something in place. It's not particularly onerous. But again, you know, everything that I have heard suggests that the simple wearing of a face mask is actually quite effective.
Yes.
And you know, we're just going to have to get used to it.
I have a
I
couple
agree.
of questions.
Yes, sir.
On the law states on the disclosure of individuals that have the virus, is it against the regulations to identify these individuals?
Yes.
Okay. Because I was questioned by a couple of residents.
the HIPAA law.
The HIPAA laws prevent medical personnel from releasing the names of individuals to the general public, and so you're not aware. Many times in small towns, and I remember reading an article about one such town, when the neighbors found out that this individual in fact had tested positive, the neighborhood took turns parking their cars outside of this gentleman's house, and actually his wife tested positive and she died, but they actually parked outside their house and wouldn't let him come out of the house without calling the sheriff in this particular case and informing them that the lady was violating quarantine by coming out of the house. And so things like that, I think make medical personnel weary of giving out information to the general public, besides the fact that the law prohibits it. But you don't see that taking place at all.
The HIPAA laws are not particularly well understood. Medical privacy is certainly something that we all value, but those particular federal laws, they don't apply to everybody. If you wanted to tell somebody that you knew somebody had it, you're fine, because you're not a healthcare provider. You're not somebody that has access to personal identified information. I don't think it really applies to the city either. We're not in the business of providing health care. We certainly can't discuss our own employees, but it is a delicate situation, and you certainly don't want to encourage vigilantism, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, to create a worse situation for a poor soul that has this disease. Certainly, that wasn't their intent, and people have a strange way of reacting to these things when they think that their own safety and security is at risk. And quite frankly, as I'm sure everybody in here knows, there are categories of people that are at risk. But the vast majority of people are not going to die from this illness if they contract it. And yet, the hysteria overlooks the science and the facts, and it is somewhat indicative of human nature to want to protect yourself. But we certainly, want to do it in a way that makes sense and that doesn't create victims of people who are already victimized by this invisible enemy, as it has been referred to.
I have another question. Is the city going to require for the business owners to wear masks, their employees to wear masks?
Yes, that's what this order is.
Okay. So the patrons that are coming into the business have to wear masks, and so are the individual
Employees also.
It requires the business owners and their employees to wear masks at all times inside their buildings, and that any entry into the building
the same.
is the same until, for instance, in a restaurant, until social distancing is established within the area where the person is going to eat, or whatever the activity is that takes place inside the building, then the mask can be removed to do that activity. Once that person gets ready to leave and go out into the general public, where again he's going to have an issue with social distancing, then that mask has to be worn.
So the order that you have tonight does not require the business to do it. So if that's what we were wanting to do, I'm going to have to make that change. This was mainly people coming in. I don't know. I know when I went to the Exxon, the lady had a mask on. I don't know what you've seen around here. Do you see businesses that are already doing this?
Yeah, but you see businesses that don't do it, and that's where the danger is.
So I do need to make that change.
So if before you pass for approval on it, you probably need to make a motion or an amendment to what's being presented, to amend it to require the business to require their employees to wear masks as well.
Okay.
And Mr. Peña can do that amendment and then just send it back to the mayor tomorrow. We have printed some stickers that we are asking all of the businesses to put at their doors. We're going to have somebody deliver them tomorrow, so that they start making those requirements for both the patrons and their employees.
I believe the governor had maybe backtracked on what had been the thinking in that cities could not require people to wear the mask and what have you. Now, he's essentially said, well, yeah, it was always in there. And for those that don't know, that may have read the newspaper today, there was an incident in San Antonio at a Lowe's store actually involving the county judge, which was totally blown out of proportion. And so these things are, they're
Sensitive issue.
They are very sensitive. So I'll make that correction, Georgia, and I'll send you a final version. The exhibits that's attached there, that's still going to stay the same.
Any
So
more
this goes to the 31st of July, by the way. So sometime next month, we'll have to, take a look at
This
that.
is the thing that we have printed out, and we have copies for all of the businesses inside the city limits of the city of Cotulla that we're asking people to comply with.
Councilman, any other questions? If not, I need a first motion to approve item number 11.
So move.
Amend the amendment.
And-
First
and-
motion.
And just to clarify, that's with the requirement of the wearing of a facial covering for adults, for people 6 years and older, commercial buildings, public buildings, and the actual business owners themselves, unless they can establish that social distancing.
Employees and patrons.
All right, so this amendment is for 6-year-old or older people to wear masks. It's a requirement now when you enter businesses, and business owners as well, to require their employees to wear their mask as well. Until social distance is met, then now you can uncover for a second or few, or if you get close to somebody, you're gonna have to put it on again. So that order is amended, so I need a motion to approve item number 11.
So moved.
First motion made by Mr. Garcia, second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Citizens of Cotulla, this is, we're going through a little bit of unfamiliar grounds with this disaster, so I hope that everybody is safe. May God bless you all. And to the Martinez family, my condolences in behalf of the city, to the entire family. So thank you all for joining us. Meeting is adjourned. It is now 7:43.